Okay, so I've seen The Running Man, and this is the remake from Edgar Wright, starring Glen Powell, and this is a rehash of the 1987 movie that starred Arnold Schwarzenegger in one of his classic movies. And with the way that they tried to remake this film and based on the novel from Stephen King, and I have a lot of thoughts, some which are positive and some are negative as well, but don't worry, I have positive stuff. And so this will be my full non-spoiler review, go over my thoughts and somewhat my impressions, what I thought of the action sequences, how it compares somewhat to the original, and if Glen Powell can embody a lead character role as well. And so, if you're new to that, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so don't miss on any future bits. But now, let's talk about this movie. And now, starting off here is, if you know Edgar Wright and his filmography, and his movies are amazing. From Baby Driver, Scott Pilgrim, Shaun of the Dead, I mean, the list goes on. And when it comes to The Running Man, and with the way that this is a remake that he's putting to film, and even I love Edgar Wright for what he does throughout all of his movies, and now to bring this remake to life. And of course, this is a classic film from Arnold Schwarzenegger, and this is one of his iconic movies. But even though with the original, which I don't consider myself a fan of, it's got some good and mixed stuff in it, but even to remake this in the hands of Edgar Wright, it truly feels different. And even to have Glen Powell as the main lead and taking on the role as Ben Richards, and I knew I was in for a treat, because with Glen Powell and Edgar Wright are working together, it sounds like a great pairing duo to make this movie. And when it comes to the premise, you have Ben Richards, who is trying to provide for his daughter, and it's in a reality where he's basically broke and has to win some money. And he goes on a game show called The Running Man, where basically you have hunters going after you while you're trying to survive in a dystopian reality for a whole 30 days. And just for how the storytelling goes, and from the action sequences, to how it compares things to the original, but even in this remake right here, and I have to say I had a blast with this. I had a very good time, and I knew what I was in for when I went in to actually witness this movie. Of course, I'm expecting action and some practical stunts and great explosions, but I definitely do applaud the way that Edgar Wright was able to execute with his take on the actual story. And also, this is based on a novel from Stephen King, and with the way that you adapt that material into this type of concept, and if it actually worked. And just from the point where I actually have to say, I have a few mixed things that I definitely want to get on my chest in just a bit, but I want to talk about with Glen Powell. This man has become a big movie star, especially coming off of Top Gun Maverick, his breakout role, and being in other big movies, and now to actually embodying the role of Ben Richards, who is able to run from explosions and doing his own techniques and his own style. And when Glen Powell is in the presence of this role, it kind of reminds me with the fact that he has a tiny bit of ounce of Tom Cruise in him. He definitely has that leading material so well, just when it comes to his actual character and his development throughout the movie. And in terms of the supporting cast, where you have Josh Brolin, who is a great antagonist from Goldman Domingo, and to Michael Cera, and so much more, that definitely made this worth watching. But I do have a feeling that just from the way that it looked, and from the way it moves so quick throughout the movie, I mean, again, it gets right into action, and it makes you care about what type of the reality that this game show is to be. But there is a ton of action-y stuff with the way that Ben goes through when it comes to just for how he's willing to survive in this reality, knowing that he has prize money to win, even though he's being hunted down for a whole month until he actually wins $1 billion. But yeah, this was a great way to have that experience, that point of view to the way that it definitely handles the humor, but also the action, and how it balances all that at the same time. And I can say it was definitely worth the entire movie, and I got a really good kick out of it. And there's like every single thing to appreciate just from the remake alone. For how I can make somewhat a comparison to the original, well, it definitely told it differently, but with having its own style, but with the Edgar Wright flair on top of it, it definitely makes like the storytelling more richer and more complex. And even with Ben, like just from how he presents himself, how he is willing to survive in this world, and knowing for like what he is at stake for, or what is running from on his life. I could tell Glen Powell that definitely did his own stunts, especially from the practical stuff. That is very much well done. It definitely felt like a very action movie, but coming from a Stephen King novel, it just really felt that way with the way that it like presented itself. It wanted to show the audience like what can this man do in order to survive in this type of world where you have people like going after you, trying to hunt you down. And even though there are twists and there are reveals, and I got a really good enjoyment out of the film as well. And now, just from also the stuff that I was very flawed on, is that it definitely does some crazier stuff, that just from the dialogue to how the supporting cast, how they handle their roles, and how they help out Ben the entirety of the film, especially going into like the final act of the movie. And it's just like very interesting stuff. I think some things from this movie will totally be a meme quality, and even like from the hilarious moments that are pointed out throughout the film, is that even like Glen Powell in a towel just like climbing down the side of a building. Like I think that's a thing that will get people talking. But and I can tell they put like so much work into bringing this to life. And trust me, I love Glen Powell. I love Edgar Wright for what they do, trying to make filmmaking look alive. But I feel like if this really hit for me, I mean, I'm not sure if this movie was perfect. I mean, no, but it definitely felt very funny. It was very entertaining, and with the way that it wanted to pull off its own take. But even if you know the Running Man with Arnold Schwarzenegger and what he had to go through in the 1987 movie, and that movie was definitely a different take. But with the way that I mean, even though I don't want to make direct comparison, but I think there's a lot of stuff to be compared for, just for how the movie ended, what changes that it made. It definitely handled Ben Richards' character brilliantly well, and I love how Glen Powell really cares about his stuff, and with the way that he's able to pull off a different type of technique that when it comes to embodying this character. Like, I mean, this man is basically having like that single ounce of Tom Cruise within his body when he's putting his life on the line, and basically doing his own stuff. I mean, you know, Glen Powell has done so much throughout his entire career, but I think this movie I really got enjoyment out of as well. And even with everything that goes on, time totally moves like really fast. And even though from like a little percent of the time I have no idea what goes on in the movie, but I don't know if this was it, but I definitely enjoyed it. And your opinions are your own. But for me, like, I liked it. I got some really good, fun, and enjoyable time out of this. But I think it is worth watching if you love Edgar Wright. But for me, it just kind of felt like this like a different take, but with a little type of extra add-on to it that was definitely not necessary or somewhat needed, as to add to like the entirety of its runtime. But it definitely pulls off some really cool stuff. Even I want to point out Glen Powell and Michael Cera, how it's able to handle also a buddy comedy while also trying to balance all that stuff all at the same time. It is very, very cool, but also very tricky, and I think this film definitely pulled it off as well. And so, in conclusion, for my final thoughts, I like The Running Man. I think Glen Powell did an amazing job curing the role, and I hope just to see what else he pulls off next. And he really knows how to pull off an action man leading type of role. As I said, Glen Powell and Edgar Wright, I mean, these two work so well together as like a pairing duo. If you love comedy, if you love action, practical stunts, and all that fun stuff. But yeah, that's all I have to say, and I hope you enjoyed the film as much as I did as well. But that's gonna do it for this video. Just let me know in the comments down below, and if you've seen The Running Man at the time of this review, let me know in the comments down below what you think of it. Also, give me a rating between 1 out of 10. I'm curious to hear your opinion in the comments down below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to know future videos. And also follow all my social medias, all linked down below. And with that, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.